to me, at some level, this is a little bit weird. Like, I've had to learn a lot of stuff. Those are two different wombs, and those are two different babies. These are young women who are willing to donate their eggs, and if they want to help people that otherwise can't have children, they can donate their eggs. So you basically go on all of these websites, sort of like Tinder or whatever app you were dating on, where you're just kind of swiping through people and you say, oh, I like the way she looks, or I like this girl had a great education, or some combination thereof.
That is eugenics. It's what Adolf Hitler was doing, creating a master race by selectively breeding to carefully select the egg donor based on her education, based on how she looks.
Armor of truth.
Breed, just breed. This is not an attack. We're not attacking any people. What we do is we go after worldviews. As the Apostle Paul said, we destroy bad arguments, not people. And so here we have some bad arguments, some bad decisions. 2 men, 1 donor of eggs. They had 18 eggs provided to them. Split those up, 9 for one man, 9 for the other. And then there'll be 2 different surrogate mothers. So 1 embryo will be implanted in 1 woman, 1 embryo into another. What's the problem with the worldview here? What I want you to look out for today is eugenics. We don't have to stretch to find it here. It's here on the surface. I want you to listen closely to how Dave and his male partner, his mate here, went about the process of carefully selecting the egg donor. This is a definition of eugenics. When you select the characteristics of the baby, as if breeding cattle or like designer puppies. Dave Rubin talks about the process joyously as if this is just how things are done in civil society. No, this is eugenics. The theory of evolution, specifically Darwin's, is taken for granted as a fact of life and is the centerpiece of most worldviews today, including a strikingly large percentage of professing Christians. If your worldview affirms evolution, abiogenesis, we all come from the same ancestor. In fact, we come from non-life. Well, then you don't see any, there's no problem here.
All right, so here's the really big announcement, and this is the personal one and the life-changing one. For the first 40 years of my life, I kind of just didn't think I would have kids, or I could just do whatever I wanted, or...
Now, one thing you're going to hear in this monologue is, well, let's have a baby because it'll be fun. It'll be an adventure.
Something like that. It just wasn't really something that I really thought about that much. I'm not a scientist, but it's hard for 2 biological men or 2 biological women to actually reproduce without some help. And he's a little bit younger than me, so he grew up in a time when it was just obvious that, oh, you could be gay and have a family and be somewhat normal. I don't like that word normal, but like you could have something normal. And something conventional, as boring as that may sound to some degree. Where I grew up, when I grew up, it was like there was nobody talking about any of this stuff. Like there was no like, oh, those are 2 dads or those are 2 moms.
Right. If you've been with us here over the past couple weeks, over the past month, we have identified a moment in our recent history where things went off the rails. About 20 years ago. In about the year 2000, 1999, those professing, those who were members of a local body of believers, church members, in 1999 was around 70%. By the time we get to 2020, from 2000 to 2020, it had dropped to 47%. In the previous 60 years, it had fluctuated and only dropped 3%. Over the first 60 years. It would have taken 460 years to get to 47%. At that rate, we did it in 20. We see the fall. We know where it happened. We know why it has happened. So Dave describes a time when he grew up when these things just weren't talked about. Because, it was a different time. The assumption is it was an ignorant time. It was a time when people just weren't aware. Let's continue.
And that's a family or something like that. I didn't know anyone like that. I just never thought about it. And also I put so much into my career that, for better or worse, I think it obviously helped me accomplish a lot in some ways. So, yes, 2 babies are on the way. Those are ultrasounds, what you're seeing over there. Okay, this is going to be very confusing to people, and I understand this, right? Like, look, when you have 2 men or 2 women, you're missing a piece, right? You got the sperm.
It's true. You are, when you have 2 men or 2 women, you are missing a lot of pieces.
2 men or 2 women, you're missing a piece, right? You got the sperm or you got the egg, but you don't have a sperm and an egg, right? You don't have a womb. You got to figure out some things here.
So what he's saying is this is going to be confusing. What I want you to pay attention to is Dave Rubin, in his head, in his mind, let's just say in his heart, he knows this is abnormal. He knows it's wrong. He knows it's not good, even for the world that he's living in, the world that he says he's trying to save. So what Dave is doing is he knows this is true, but he has suppressed that truth in unrighteousness. Therefore, God's given him over to the desires of his heart, and that's why this is so confusing for him, right? When we find out in Romans 1, when we reject God and we don't think according to the Christian worldview, our thinking becomes strange.
And, by the way, I know most of you guys that are watching this are now on the more conservative side of things, and I never see any real issue with conservatives anymore and gay.
Exactly. This is the point I was making earlier about conservatives in the United States today. Dave is right. He doesn't see a big problem. And he's going to tell you right here, an example of that.
People, and Trump was the first time president to run being pro-gay marriage, and I think most people just...
So, and Trump, touted as the Christian president by so many. Look, this nation is so utterly confused right now. We can't decide whether we're men or women. Least of all can we decide what is really a Christian. See, Dave is promoting a conservative worldview in his books and in all his lectures, but here in his personal life, he's living according to relativism. Dave has a conflicting worldview.
By the way, to me, at some level, this is a little bit weird. Like, I've had to learn a lot of stuff
again
and go to a lot of doctors, and it's caught.
Dave, again, this is very interesting, folks. Dave is well aware that this is wrong. He's well aware that this is not good for the society which he is a member.
Those are 2 different wombs, and those are 2 different babies. So basically what we are doing, we've got plenty of sperm around here. That's one thing, right? So we had half the battle, right?
Let me just lay it out for you there. Having sperm is not half the battle.
But we needed an egg. So there are eggs.
Okay, so the language, I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but this is frustrating because what you're hearing here is it's as if science is the God. Science can give us what we want.
Donors that are out there. These are young women who are willing to donate their eggs. So you basically go on all of these websites. There are all these sites, and it's sort of like Tinder or whatever app you were dating on, where you're just kind of swiping through people and you say, oh, I like the way she looks, or I like this girl had a great education, or some combination thereof. And our feeling was that we wanted 1 egg donor.
That is eugenics. And if you're someone who might be new to this channel, you're not sure what eugenics is, it's what Adolf Hitler was doing. Creating a master race by selectively breeding. What Dave has just described here is eugenics. We're going to carefully select the egg donor based on her education, based on how she looks. His worldview is conflicted because now he's promoting eugenics. On this hand, he's over here talking about how bad and evil Planned Parenthood is, right? Planned Parenthood has made it so that an African-American man, the most dangerous place for an African-American man to be is not the inner city. It's in the womb. That's the most dangerous place for anyone to be today. In North America, between Canada and the United States, 1 million babies destroyed every year for convenience. Right? That's Planned Parenthood. Today, because it's fulfilling the desires of his heart, he's okay with eugenics.
And it's sort of like Tinder or whatever app you were dating on, where you're just kind of swiping through people and you say, oh, I like the way she looks, or I like this girl had a great education, or some combination thereof. And our feeling was that we wanted one egg donor, meaning you get a whole bunch of eggs. Well, hopefully you get a whole bunch of eggs from the egg donor. I think the first time around we got like 18 eggs. We would split them, so now there's like 9 and 9, then inseminate them, and then you hopefully from that, some of it takes, some of it doesn't take, but then in essence you have these embryos, and then you need surrogates, the woman who then carries the child. So basically what
that would also be called the mother.
What we've got cooking here is that we have one baby that is from my stuff and one baby that is from David's stuff, but they both will have the same biological mother, and we wanted them to have that sort of genetic connection. And right now there are 2 really fantastic women, and you know, it's not an easy thing to be a surrogate. This is not something people really do for money. They do it for a higher purpose, for sure.
In this case, is this for a higher purpose? What's the question we normally ask when someone makes a value judgment around here? These women are doing this for a higher purpose. Okay, then we must ask, according to what standard? What standard are you using to determine that this is a higher purpose, that this is a good thing? It's according to his own. It's not according to the transcendent, moral lawgiver's standard of what is good and evil, or true and false. In his public lectures and in his books, in his private life, he lives according to a different worldview. He lives according to the desires of his heart.
David was really like, you know, he really, really wanted kids. He saw that vision. He felt it was the next step for us and all of that. And again, I'm just so focused on my career and trying to save the world and all of this stuff. And we had been talking about it for quite some time, but he was really getting like more and more like, we really should do this and we can, you know, be great dads. And it's not the most conventional thing ever, but like, it'll be fun and it'll be exciting and like,
it'll be an adventure. It'll be fun. No, this is the next stage.
And being sort of a fully actualized and complete human being.
He said that one of the reasons he decided to do this is because Jordan Peterson in his lectures talked about the fact that what helps a person become fully actualized, become as an adult, is the process of becoming a parent. Clearly, that's just an opinion. There are plenty of fully actualized adults who are not parents. There's no biblical standard to stand on there. Apostle Paul, how about Jesus Christ, for example? There are a couple examples for you. But the idea being that, look, I want to be fully actualized as a person. So this is what we want. This is for us. This is to enrich our lives. According to what standard? He's a bit of a positivist. You know, science has all the answers. Science has the answers to happiness.
Armor of truth.